Hey, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Friday 1-hour edition of Talkback on this Friday, October 25th. And Talkback this morning brought to you by 123 Seamless Gutters. Family owned and operated, serving all of western Montana, gutter guards, and more. Give them a call today, 402-440-2669, protecting the foundation of your future. Also brought to you by Harrington Surgical Supply, where the mission always remains the same, to restore confidence and comfort into your daily life. Y West Storage, out at the Y on Two Smokes Way. If you need pricing and availability, here's their number, 406-510-0590. At Y West, they are making room for you. And by Phillips Janitorial, both residential and commercial cleaning, your home and your business. No job too big or small for them. Give them a call, 406-260-6617. Okay, here we are. It is Talkback. It is Friday. Lots going on. A room full of people here today. And, of course, the fabulous Nick Christensen over there. Good morning, Mr. Nick.
Good morning.
And joining us on the phone, the equally fabulous Matt Jennings, Missoula County Attorney. Well, you guys can fight that out. All right, Matt, good morning and welcome. I know we have a very busy report today. What can you share with us?
Yeah, we sure did, Peter. We had a busy week. The last few weeks I've noted how quiet it's been, and I've always heard the story that people know when tsunamis are coming because the water first recedes before you get that big wave, and this is kind of how this week felt a little bit. We had a little lull, which after a couple weeks starts making me a little nervous. This week we filed 21 felony complaints in Missoula. That's quite a bit. Kind of pre-COVID, we would have been around about 10 a week. It's been ticking up over the last few years, and 21's a lot. In those 21, 9 of those were considered violent offenses, and that's always kind of our benchmark of things that we track, because when you get that many violent offenses, you tend to get other things below that, like drugs and property crimes and DUIs. We had 1 endangerment crime. We had 5 property crimes, which included 3 stolen vehicles. It does happen quite a bit. Lock your doors. I wasn't always as good about that in my youth. I used to love growing up in Montana in a safe place, and sometimes used to leave my keys in the ignition, but I sure don't do that anymore, seeing what I do now. We had 5 drug crimes and 1 administrative crime. And one of the things I wanted to highlight this week, Peter, is that on October 22nd and 23rd, the Montana Department of Justice, the Missoula Police, and the Missoula Sheriff's Department all participated in a joint operation to identify and apprehend purchasers of illegal commercial sex. And this is known as an undercover John Sting. It's designed to curb the demand for prosecution and help in a war against human trafficking. And we had 4 different felony arrests that were made for patronizing prostitution. In some of those, there were illegal narcotics that were seized. There was a firearm that was seized, and some of these folks have been sort of involved in other aspects of the criminal justice system. And the reason that these are prioritized, Peter, is that as a society and as a state and a community, we've really identified that along with commercial sex comes a lot of violence and coercion and human trafficking and drug addiction and these other sort of ripple effects throughout society because of the coercion that's generally being placed upon the women that are forced to engage in this. And so in this particular circumstance, while it was a sting operation, we as a society have been trying to cut down on that demand for this commercial sex work, knowing the harms that it's causing into our society. And again, like I was saying about stolen vehicles, I didn't necessarily know years ago all the impacts on human trafficking in our community, but it does exist. It's real. Women are getting seriously hurt by this and getting stuck in a repeating cycle of violence and coercion in their lives. And it's just great to see some of these agencies work together to try and target that commercial sex trafficking through operations like this.
I will tell you that we have had reports from the attorneys, several attorneys general over the years we've been doing this show about the human trafficking situation and these sting operations that unfortunately are very successful in I say unfortunately because they catch a lot of people, but it is so necessary to try to let people know don't do this activity.
That's right. Thanks for acknowledging that, Peter, and it's true. And gosh, we do these all the time, frankly. They end up in your radio show and the news, and then we'll do it again next month and still get a ton of fish to bite. And we're really trying to give a wake-up call to society to stop this harmful behavior.
You bet. Anything else you'd like to share with us before we let you go, sir?
That's it this week. Thanks, Peter.
All right, Matt, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for sharing that with us. We appreciate it. We're going to take a little break, come right back, and it is City Talk today, ladies and gentlemen, and we have a room full of guests today, and we're going to be talking with them. Brian's with us, Lori, Matt, we have Ginny, we've got Nick, we've got Peter, and Cubby. We're coming right back with more Talk Back right after this. Okay, welcome back, everybody. It's City Talk. I'm Peter Christian, Nick Christensen, taking your phone calls over there, producing Talk Back. Joining us here in studio this morning, we have Brian Hensel, Deputy Public Works Director for Streets for the City of Missoula. Lori Hart is joining us for the very first time. It's good to see you. Lori is the Public Works Mobility Communications Specialist. Matt Ragsdale also here in the studio with us, Street Superintendent. But we're going to start with Brian right now. Of course, Ginny Miriam, the fabulous Ginny Miriam.
Good morning.
Communications Director. You got to put the fabulous in there. All right.
Thank you, Peter.
So Brian, let's talk a little bit about the one thing after the trees, now come the leaves, right? So it is definitely leaf collection season, and there's still plenty of trees around for leaves to drop. So tell me what's going on, and what's the plan?
So good morning, Peter. It's been a while. Thanks for having me back today. So yeah, leaf collection is going to start November 5th, coincidentally on Election Day. And that causes a little bit of complication down by the library, Special District 1. And those of you that are familiar, down in that district and all the other special districts, we place barricades and we tow vehicles. So I just want to get this one off the plate first. We will not be towing vehicles around the library because I understand the new library is a polling place as the old library used to be. So we will not be towing people going there to try and vote. It will kind of hinder our cleaning efforts and leaf removal, but it's a small price to pay, so we'll come back and get it the next round. But I'm glad you mentioned branches. One of the issues this year that's going to add some further complication, not that leaf collection isn't complicated enough as it is there's still piles of branches, and we've made another effort a couple of weeks ago to try and get the piles that we were aware of, and now there's more piles. So I just want to let the public know that as we go through leaf collection, we do not want leaves mixed with the branch piles. And the main reason for that is when we pick up these piles of branches, we have to take the tailgates down on our dump trucks. Well, imagine hauling leaves and branches with the tailgates down. It wouldn't be leaf collection, it would be leaf dispersion. So that means
a new distribution method.
Yeah. It doesn't really do any good for me to collect the leaves and then run the trucks down to reserve and blow them out the back. So we try to avoid
Although it might be kind of fun, but unless you're driving behind the truck, then that would be,
Yes.
Sorry.
And so if you still have some piles in front of your property, please do not mix the piles with the branches. And the one thing I also want to mention with this first round of leaf collection, we're going to probably send another crew out to try and get any of the piles we can in advance. But after leaf collection, no more piles. We don't want any more branches out in the street from now on. This is it. If you still have branches that need to be trimmed or taken down, please take them to Missoula Compost. Do not put them out in the street because this is it. We're done. By the time we get done with leaf collection, this will be the 5th time we've sent crews out to pick up branches in the right-of-way. No more. If you have questions, as always, call Street Division 406-552-6360. But this is it. We struggle every year, Peter, I've been on the show, with trying to get the whole city collected, get all the leaves picked up, and then winter hits and shoots the whole schedule out of the water. And then we are just kind of running in between snow events because, as I always say, the same people that pick your leaves up are the same people that are out plowing the streets. So when it snows in leaf collection, I have to shut that down, and then we go plow streets. So it's hard enough as it is. We normally can get through the bulk collection with the loaders, typically not necessarily on our schedule because of winter. This year, I'm not exactly sure how much the branch piles are going to slow us down, but we usually get that done. Street sweeping followed behind on the loaders. That one's rare. We typically don't get the whole city done, but we do our best. It's just kind of depends on what Mother Nature wants us to do.
Now, obviously, you have a plan that's been in place for a long time about leaf collection and that sort of thing. So for those who or maybe just moved here and not familiar with where you go and when, how can we find out more about that, and where will it start? Let's put it that way.
So great question, Peter. Yeah, all of the information is on our website, And the city is divided up into 4 areas, area 1, 2, 3, 4. We always start in area 1 first, which is Rattlesnake, downtown, Grant Creek. Rattlesnake in that downtown district have a high density of trees, so we want to try and get as many of those leaves picked up first. And I think, what do we got, a week on area 1, district 1, and then we move into what's area 2, which is primarily the University District and Slant Streets. Now, area 2 even has more leaves than area 1. And so a lot of times we have to start usually at the first part of November so that gives us enough time to work all the way through city before typical winter starts, which we switch to winter shift on the first week of December. So that's a month to try and get all the leaves picked up. And then if we have the little random snow event in the middle of November, that throws it all to the wind. But it's the system we have. It's the best we can do with it. We have so many branches, so many trees to get, and we have to focus on those areas to get as many of the leaves as we can first. And then we'll move to area 3, which then has the third density of urban trees, and then the last one is area 4, which is the least. So everyone always calls and said, why do you always do area 1 first and the Rattlesnake? And it's the reason, because that's where most of the trees are, i.e. most of the leaves.
Right.
Okay, so we're fighting weather and winter and trying to get through it as quick as we can.
Like the guy said, why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is.
Sort of, yeah.
Now, I will tell you this, in case you robbers didn't know that. Anyway, the one thing that I have discovered is our trees are, of course, I think we're off your collection because we're way back off the road. So I gather up my own leaves, and I've discovered a quick drive down to Missoula Compost. I cut open the bags, drop them. It's absolutely free. There's no charge. Yeah. And get to meet some nice people out there and wave and say hello to the neighbors and that sort of thing. And that way I can get that done myself without bothering you guys.
Correct. And so I'm glad you brought that up too, Peter. So I got a call last week from a very nice lady. She had bagged up all her leaves, took them to compost, and they charged her. And I was a little taken aback by that, and so I called the superintendent, Jason, who's great, and he said they do free leaf drop-off for the public on the same day that street leaf collection starts.
Ah, okay.
So don't go early unless you don't mind paying. So on November 5th, from there on through, it will be free to the public. Now, commercial businesses, landscape companies, they still get charged. So if you're a citizen, you hire a landscape company to clean your leaves, that company is going to get charged at compost. But I don't think it's very much.
Well, let's put it this way. When I drove, I've done it twice so far, once in the rain last week and once just yesterday. Yeah. And I drove out there, and the guy said, come on in, just put it right over there. I said, so I didn't charge me anything. Okay. So blessings on them.
It's because it was you, Peter.
I doubt that. They should have charged you double.
Anyway, yeah.
So, but that was just recent information I got from Jason yesterday. So just for clarification, once we start November 5th, if you want to take your own leaves. Now, if you want to leave them out in the street for street division to pick up, do not leave out bags. Don't bag your leaves. Rake them out in piles into the parking lane. Don't leave them on the boulevards or on the sidewalk. And also, as you put them in a parking lane, do not block bike lanes or the travel lanes. And I realize there are some streets that they're fairly narrow. Try to make your piles longer and narrower versus shorter and wider so they don't encroach. Also, that we'd ask people and your neighbors, don't park on the leaf piles. I can't pick them up if there's cars on them. And I'd like to be able to tell everybody in the city when our crew will be right in front of your house at exactly the right time. It's impossible. I can't. And now throwing in this extra obstacle with branches, our schedule may be off the first day we start. I just am unclear how long this additional work is going to take us to get through. Then we'll throw a snowstorm into it, and who knows?
Well, we're just going to be working together, right?
So we do.
We're up against a break. By the way, the phone lines are open. If you have a question for Brian Hensel, and I know you do. Also, Lori's with us, Matt's with us, Jenny's with us, Nick is with us. I'm here, too. If you have a question or comment, the phone lines are open at 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. Or, of course, if you can't get to the phone, use the KGVO app. It is so convenient and handy just to hit that message us button, and Nick will pass that along to our guests. So lots of ways to get in touch. Well, we'd love to hear from you. We'll be right back on City Talk after this. Hey, welcome back to Talk Back. I'm Peter Christian to questions and taking your phone calls this morning and producing Talk Back. We have a lot of guests in the studio, and all we need is you folks on the phone at 721-1290. Brian Hensel, we just heard from him a minute ago. We're going to talk right now with Lori Hart, who is a Public Works Mobility Communication Specialist. Welcome.
Thank you, Peter.
Now, one of the things I know you wanted to communicate about is where people can find these schedules, because maybe they just tuned in and missed what Brian had to say, but there is a place we can just go and study it like crazy. Where do we go?
Absolutely. Shortly after your show is over, Peter, we're going to have it on the front page of the city website, and we'll have a link.
Wow, front page news.
The front page. And we'll have a link to the map that's all by areas that Brian was talking about. So if you don't know what area you live in, there's also a GIS map on there.
Isn't that funny that a lot of people have no idea where, I realize I live on X street, but I don't know where that is in conjunction with the whole city.
Right. And our GIS department did a really cool map on, it's actually Brian's street maintenance page on the website, and you can go on there and find exactly what district you're in or what area you're in on Brian's leaf collection schedule. So that's all on the website. So we encourage everybody to go there and take a look at it. I know some of these were inserted in the newspaper, and then we also had the Boy Scouts were out in some of the first areas that Brian hits, and they were distributing those maps.
Well, that's great.
Too.
Yeah, I as a former Boy Scout, just a couple months ago, I love doing stuff like that, and that way they're a part of the community. They get to meet people. They get to it's great, and so they help the city as well.
Yes, Brian's been doing that for several years, I think.
Longer than even.
All right. So when are there? Obviously, we heard Brian's advice that if you're going to be putting them out for pickup, do not put them in bags. That is a big complication.
Right. Don't put them in bags, and don't mix them in with branches you have left over. And then also, if you're going to take your leaves to Garden City Compost, they also, if you want to drop them off for free, you need to make sure that they are leaves only. So they will have to charge, because it's obviously more work and more things they have to do with those branches. So if you have branches mixed with your leaves, they are going to have to charge you for that. But it will be free for leaves only.
Right. If they see 4 or 5 bags in the back of your car, pretty sure you just got leaves in there. Right? And,
I think so.
Yeah, and I just take my razor blade and whoop, whoop, and it takes about 30 seconds and I'm out of there.
Yeah.
And so, and there's such nice people out there.
They
really.
are.
Yeah.
They're great. They're great.
Wonderful. All right. So where do we go from here? Let's, do we still have more leaves to talk about, or do you want to start talking about winter? What would you like to do? Okay, we're the trading of the headphones. Here we go. All right.
Brian wants to talk about winter because it's his favorite season.
Well, I would rather talk about other things than winter, but yes, unfortunately, winter is coming. And we are starting to get ready, even though leaf season is our next big issue. But I'm happy to say that we were able to increase our capacity on our de-icer storage. Normally, for the last 22 years, we've been able to store 30,000 gallons of liquid de-icer. Council gave me approval to buy 3 new tanks plus an additional 10,000-gallon tank. So this will help us with our response time. It will help us have additional de-icer to use during those long events. And sometimes our vendor that delivers the de-icer to us, when the roads are bad and they're having to bring them up from Utah and Butte, sometimes they get delayed. So having this additional capacity, I think, is going to be a huge benefit to public safety, help our operations. We're in the process of trying to get those set up and getting them plumbed as we speak. So winter prep is coming, but right now the big issue for winter for us is because of leaf collection. When we get those little storms during the schedule, then it throws the whole thing out of whack.
And then, so how do you deal with that? Obviously, it's basically on need and necessity. If you got a big dump of snow, got to take care of that, and try to and then do the leaves after.
Yeah,
how does that work?
Well, so obviously the snow event would become the priority. Leaf collection has to stop. Well, then what do we do after the storm? Well, we try to pick up where we left off. And what I've done in the past is, let's say we didn't finish Area 1, for example, but we're scheduled to be in Area 2, is I'll split the crews up. I'll keep working in Area 1, and then we'll send the crew into Area 2, just so that we're at least making an attempt to try and stay on schedule. It doesn't work entirely, but at least we're still trying to do the best we can and have the information that's already out there and print it on the flyers and try to stick to it.
Basically, it's all weather permitting, basically, right?
Yeah, our whole everything in street division is dependent on the weather. I mean, we're still paving right now. We have a paving job going that has to be done next week.
Wow.
So it's moved from one 3-ring circus to the next. It's just when the weather lets us do it.
All right, and with that, we're up against a break, and we have Mark waiting to talk with you folks when we come back, and several other phone lines open. Again, our guest here, there we go, some more calls coming in. Brian Hensel is here in the studio with us, along with Lori Hart. We just heard from her, Public Works Mobility Communications Specialist. Matt Ragsdale's also here in the studio with us, and we're going to get Mark and Jeff when we come back with Talkback. This is City Talk, back right after this. Hey, we're back on Talkback at City Talk. I'm Peter Christian, Nick Christensen taking your phone calls this morning, and we have a room full of guests. Brian Hensel with us, Lori Hart, Matt Ragsdale, Ginny Miriam, and let's get some calls on right now. This is Mark. Mark, good morning. You're up. What's your question, sir?
You mentioned Missoula Compost, and I looked on their website, but it doesn't give an address. Could you give out the address to Missoula Compost?
I can tell you the easiest way to get out there.
Yeah, okay? I don't know that I know the address right off the top of my head.
It's on Clark Fork Drive.
Yeah, it's kind of behind Super Walmart there.
Right. All you do is you take a left on Mullen Road off Reserve. You go to where you would pull into Walmart, and then keep going straight. And just as you get to that, at the end of that street, turn right, and there is Missoula Compost. You just drive right in.
Okay, that's what I needed. Thank you.
There you go. No extra charge for the tour guide service. All right, so I believe Jeff is up next. Jeff, good morning. You're on Talkback. Hi.
Hey, good morning. Always a pleasure to hear Brian try to explain the nuances of his job. It is truly complicated. My question's around de-icer, though. I know that there's a variety of things you can use: sodium chloride, mag chloride. I know that even in England and Britain they would use urea as a de-icer. And so, what sort of de-icers do you use, and what's your considerations? Is it price? Is it corrosive nature of it? Is it effect on cars and pavement? What drives you to select a certain kind of de-icer?
There has to be some sort of environmental concerns too, right?
All of those things, Jeff, and more.
Yeah.
I get calls from vendors all the time asking for me to try out a different type of de-icer product, liquid or granular. And one thing that always kind of complicates the whole process is that any de-icer product that we use at streets has to be tested and approved by the local health department, and also has to be on the approved list for use by MDT. And it's not a very big list, and it's hard to get on that list. Oh, I'm sorry. Ginny always gets mad when I use acronyms. Montana Department of Transportation and Missoula City County Health Department have to give approval on any type of de-icer that we use. Health Department obviously addresses the environmental concerns, and they rigorously test the de-icer, any, what's the word I'm thinking of? Any corrosion inhibitors. It's a big deal. And it takes time to do it. And then if all those things come together and a product is approved by them, then I have to start looking at those other things you mentioned, Jeff. Cost is usually a big part of it. Performance, availability of it. During my tenure, for liquid, we did try salt brine one time, and that was already pre-approved because MDT's been using it for several years before. And then I have obviously the mag chloride, which we've used forever. That one's been approved for longer than I've been here, which over 24 years. So it's not an easy thing. As you say, everything's complicated at streets. Well, this is probably one of the most complicated. And there are other products out there, and there's other products that are maybe less corrosive. Usually when the corrosivity goes down, the price goes way up.
Do you ever get any pushback from folks who are environmentally conscious about, oh gosh, what are you putting on my streets, and how do you explain that?
Oh, people are usually really good about it once I explain the situation, and Missoula's health department is always good to field some of those environmental concerns, and they can explain what they're doing, what they're analyzing, what they test. They even have monitoring wells where they test water quality in our aquifer. So it's a real easy call for me. Just push them off to the health department.
Gotcha. Jeff, any other questions, sir?
Yeah, I just have you seen any effects of the corrosion on things? Because as you drive along the highway, particularly 93 up here in Lake County and between Polson and Kalispell, you see a lot of die-off right close to the road, and folks think that's because of pine beetle or something, but a lot of it's due to just the salt kind of leaching out to where those roots are and killing some of the vegetation closer to the street. I mean, salt and plants just don't go together to begin with, and I just didn't know if there was any effects that you've seen in Missoula, or is it pretty much managed to the best degree possible? Well,
and Jeff, I think part of what you're seeing is the difference in those rural settings. They typically don't have curb and gutters. So in Missoula, when we put the mag chloride down along with the snow and the moisture, which dilutes it, and then it goes into our storm infrastructure. So it doesn't probably come into near as much contact with vegetation unless there's grass growing right up against the curb. So that's something I don't really get too many complaints on. And if there's callers out there that want to disagree with me, feel free to let me know. But I think what you're seeing is more along highways or in those rural settings where they don't have concrete storm infrastructure to manage that runoff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, everything in life is a trade-off. I mean, there is no consequence-free solution here. So I applaud you for everything you do in terms of managing those trade-offs.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Sometimes it's difficult.
Jeff, thanks for the call. We appreciate it, sir. Let's get Doug on the line. He's been waiting. Doug, good morning. What's your question for our guests, please?
Well, I'd like to ask Brian if he is still doing pothole patching.
Oh, yeah, all year round, Doug. You know that.
I didn't. That's why I asked.
Oh, okay.
But, the block where the senior center has a T. The alleyway is T shape, and 2 years ago we had the truck come and fill the potholes, but a lot of them were 3 feet long, and they only got about 2/3 of the potholes patched, and those have all come out. And we have so many delivery trucks coming through there for two different businesses in that block, and the potholes are really deep, and we really appreciate if that block could be fixed up so we can get through there without having to bottom out at the bottom of our cars. And we miss seeing you at Charlie B's.
Oh, Doug, okay, I mistook you for another Doug that's a frequent caller. So, Doug, I assume this is an alley behind the senior center off Higgins. Is that correct?
Yeah, right. It's T-shaped, and there's an awful lot of cars that go through there because they park in the senior center parking lot, which is about 40 parking spaces, and it gets filled and emptied several times a day. And once you get to, there's no drainage to get the water away, and it just seems to run into the potholes, and they just keep getting deeper and deeper into slashing.
So we will definitely. Sorry, Doug. Go ahead. We will definitely look at it here next week. That sounds like that's a little more complicated than just sending the patch truck out to fill a few holes. And alleys are probably one of my biggest difficulties for stormwater management and maintenance. They typically are narrow. They typically aren't well drained. Some of them are partially paved or they're all gravel. But stormwater in alleys is a difficult issue. So that's something I need to go look at in person, which I will do next week.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. Doug, thanks for the call.
Thanks, Doug.
With that perfect timing, we are up against a break. And by the way, all of our phone lines are open now. If you have a question or a comment for our guests, Brian Hensel is here in the studio with us, along with Lori Hart and Matt Bragsdale, Jenny Miriam, Communications Director for the city. This is City Talk, and we want to talk to you. They want to talk to you. So that's why they're here in the studio. And we'll be right back. Hopefully more phone calls from you folks, or maybe a word or two from the KGVO app. We'll take those as well. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. This is Talk Back. 721-1290 is our number. 1-800-568-5309. We're thrilled to have with us some folks from the city, and this is why it's called City Talk. And so they would love to visit with you. The phone lines are open at 721-1290. Brian Hensel, Lori Hart, Matt Ragsdale, Ginny Miriam, all here in the studio this morning. And I know that you're a humble guy, but you received some kudos recently from a member of the city council about a project that you folks had worked on. So if you wouldn't mind talking about that just a little bit.
Yeah, well, I don't deserve any of the kudos as much as our crew and our team.
Okay.
They're referring to the Turner Warden project on the north side. That's where we're still paving. We have one block of homes left to do that I wasn't sure we would get to before winter. But yeah, we're 90% done with it. It was a big project. It was funded through City Council and our engineering department and transportation, who put a whole bunch more effort into all the planning and the design, and our consultant. And then when I get it, I just get to pave it and make it look good. So maybe we get more of the credit because it looks nice when I'm done, and I don't have to go through all the other pre-planning issues that can come along with these big projects like this. I do appreciate the council mentioning it. It looks good. I have to give the credit to our crew and our team and everybody. It was a big project, certainly for us, and running it up this close to winter and leaf collection, it caused me a lot of stress for the last 3 weeks, and it's probably why I might go on a few days vacation next week.
Why not?
Hopefully. I mean, it's
Why
hunting
not?
season,
Right.
Maybe good to get out.
Now, I did want to ask you, because Missoula is a town of many different areas. Some are very old and established. Some are newer, and so the streets reflect that, right? And so I imagine when you get into leaf collection and eventually snowstorms, things like that, are those areas? Do they require more care, less care? How does that work when you're going to an older area versus a newer area?
Well, so the way that if you're referring to snow operations,
right.
The condition of the street doesn't necessarily dictate when or how we plow it. Now, if a street's in really bad condition, or we have some severe settlement issues at sewer service, water service, or valves that are protruding, then that can cause damage to our plows. So there's a few places in town that this is a common thing that we make an effort to try and go in there and fix some of these and add more asphalt so that it's safer and easier for the plows to run over. Sewer manholes sticking up, those can just wreak havoc with a snowplow. But as far as it affecting the prioritization of when we plow or how we plow, the condition isn't an issue so much, other than additional wear and tear on our equipment.
And in lieu of phone calls, by the way, we do have calls. Oh, great! Let's. Nick is going to get somebody on here in just a second. But I guess my question is, how do you work together with Missoula County and MDT? Because that beautiful brand new stretch of highway starting. Heading out to Lolo, it's just as clear and smooth as it can be. It's great. Yeah. Somebody told me they were going to try to chip seal that, but they didn't. And so, and it's just like driving on velvet. So, in a situation like that, how does that work?
Well, so we do work with MDT and Missoula County, particularly during snow ops. But Montana Department of Transportation, MDT, we have a maintenance agreement with MDT to maintain, including plowing, snow, sweeping on the state routes identified in the agreement within city limits. So we definitely work with MDT, and they pay the city for that service and that maintenance agreement. But it isn't just snow plowing. There's a whole bunch of other things that we do, including pothole patching and crack sealing and all kinds of things. And with Missoula County, we have a really good relationship with them too, where as the city has continued to grow and annex some of these outlying areas, and there's just a pocket of a city subdivision out there, and the county has to drive by it, or we have to use a portion of a county road or an MDT road that isn't annexed, is that we trade off. In some places, it's a formal agreement. Other places, whoever gets there first, drop your plow and de-ice or sand, whatever the case.
Right.
For example, like out in East Missoula at the Canyon River subdivision, where the big nice golf course is, I traded that with the county. They have to go out and plow all that Deer Creek and the Patty Canyon and loop. So they hit that for us, and they do a great job. And then we traded some areas up in Linda Vista. there's a map of it. I don't know if it's public facing, but yeah, we work well with them. And it doesn't make sense if a city plow's driving to a city area, driving over county road that hasn't been plowed, we'll drop it. And they do the same for us. So it works out real well. Even Upper Miller Creek, Peter, that's kind of a similar one.
Thank you.
There's pockets where the city is encroached out into the county. And like where the deer always are, that's in the county. And where that pothole always is, that's the county. But as far as snow plowing goes, if you're going there and you're driving by something that hasn't been plowed, we both do it.
All right. Well, let's get a call in. This is Dennis. Dennis, good morning. You're on with Brian Hensel and Lori and Matt. Go ahead, please.
Oh, thank you. I'd just like to get a comment on the what I'd call potholes, but the manholes that have been overpaved, and I think 39th is a great example of. You drive down our streets and they're not potholes, but they're manhole potholes, and I just love to see them be able to address that some way.
Yeah, and Dennis, I'm familiar with what you're saying. Some of those sewer manholes are a little bit on the low side. And those are tough to do. Even like when we're paving just on the Turner Water project, trying to get any of that hardware to grade can be tough. It can be done, don't get me wrong. And we didn't have a part. Street Division didn't do that project. Several years ago, MDT was able to use pavement pres money, and they went in and did all that paving, put the medians in, and those manholes were set by whoever the contractor was, and then they pave around them. But it's not easy to do sometimes, trying to keep the grade, the cross slope of the street, and then get the manholes set so they're just flush. But then if you stick them up a little bit, then snowplows hit them. So there's a fine line. I mean, there isn't just like a fine adjustment on those to raise them up and down. It's a fairly labor-intensive process to get them just right. And I also know that we've had complaints on some of those where because some of the sewer manholes are right in the wheel path, and when the cars go over them, they get loose and they make noise. Our wastewater group is really good about addressing those when we hear about them. And they will, if they get bad enough, they'll have to go in there and open cut it and redo the whole frame and lid. Or in some cases, if we're not able to do that because of winter, we'll go in there and try to glue them down. But yeah, I agree with you. Some of them are a little deeper than what I'd like.
Did I help you, Dennis?
Yeah. It just seems to me that there was really something out in the market to adapt that problem. I can just, it's one thing to recognize that, when you continue to repave like that. I think Missoula is full of those. I think Russell Street got the same issue. It's like every place I drive, it's not a pothole, it's a man-made pothole.
Right.
So.
Well, and some of those are more difficult than others, like some of the ones on Higgins. I don't know if you're aware of this, but a lot of the storm and sewer structure downtown has been there for 100 years.
Right.
And the way that they used to make those structures was with brick and mortar. And I've had the unfortunate occasion, we were paving on Higgins years ago. We pulled one of the castings off because it was too high. And we were trying to do exactly what you're saying, Dennis. We pull the casting off, bricks start falling in to the storm structure.
Wow.
How do you fix that?
Yeah.
Do you hire a brick mason? Is there any of those left anywhere? I mean, so it's an issue. And everybody in the business does their best to try and get them as close as we can. And I'll admit, it's not an exact science. And there are some products that can help. There's some tapered rubber risers that come in varying thicknesses, but you still have to pull that whole casting out to redo it.
Dennis, we're up against a break. Thank you for your call. We appreciate it. The phone lines are open. We've got about another 7 or 8 minutes with our guests here in the studio. We're talking about snow, leaves, roads, plowing. If you have a question or comment, now's the time before the snow hits. Yeah, you can get all this information. Give us a call, 721-1290. We'll be back in 1 minute. Hey, welcome back to Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. During the break, we were kicking around some things that, you have another call coming in. Great. So this is great. That's the reason why Brian and the crew are here, is to take your phone calls this morning. We've been talking about paving. We've been talking about snow plows, snow maintenance, leaf pickup, all that good stuff. So Bill is on the line right now. Bill, good morning. You're on with Brian and our guests. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call. Just three quick questions. The new pavement on Brooks and 93 going west, is that going to be armored this year? I'm assuming it's too late.
Yeah, there's no way they'll do it. So just so you know, Bill, that was not a city project. That was a Montana Department of Transportation project. So I don't know all the details with it. If that's what the next two questions are about, I could refer you to the local office here in Missoula, and I can give you their phone number if you'd like.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I assumed it was. We're just standing too cold for that. But next question is, what's the possibility of a roundabout at the intersection of Briggs and Miller Creek Road in that same area?
I think there is a possibility, and I am not fully familiar with it. I think it's been discussed, but I don't know what the timing is of it or if it's even going to happen. That would be something I would have to refer you to our transportation engineering department.
Okay. I was just wondering if that had been widely talked about. And then the other question, that maybe this is just this is an engineering question as well. I always, every time I get backed up on Reserve Street going north, excuse me, sometimes I try to run over to Russell and.
Oh, you're cutting out, Bill.
Oh, I'm sorry. The section on Russell Street between Mount Avenue and South 3rd West, is that on the...
We have a bad connection.
Bill, we got a bad connection.
Oh, sorry. Okay, well, I got my first question answered.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, Bill. You can call the street division anytime and get a hold of me. My cell number's on the website.
Let's try to get one more really quick call in with Pete. Pete, we got about a minute for you to ask your question. Go ahead.
Good morning. Is this... Oh, yes. Mr. Hensel, there's a pothole on Reserve Street as you're going south past River Road. It's just as you cut around the corner to the left, and the concrete barrier starts on your right there.
Okay.
Right there in the right-hand lane. Are you? Is that something that you guys deal with?
Yeah, that's part of our maintenance agreement that I talked about earlier. So yeah, we'll jump on that. Okay. Thanks for letting me know.
Okay, we just got a few precious minutes left here, so let's talk about leaf collection one more time. Where can we find out more information about this, and so people will know what's happening?
So as Lori mentioned earlier, it's all on our street division website, and if you can't find that, you can always call us at 406-552-6360.
All right. So anything else that any of you folks would like to add? Ginny, you've got the microphone over there. And anything's happening with City Council that people need to know about? We got about a minute. If you have something you'd like to share, go ahead.
Oh, I could share that in 1 minute?
Go ahead.
Peter, honestly.
Okay, go for it.
No, City Council has been very busy lately.
Yes, they had a big meeting.
Watch their agendas.
Just had a big meeting the other day about camping in parks and all that. So
They're looking at that urban camping ordinance again, see if they can make some adjustments to it to make it work better.
And it was a very lively public comment period.
It certainly was.
As it always is. And that's one of the reasons why we're glad that it's online and totally public, so people can have an opportunity to comment whether they're in the meeting or not.
Absolutely.
Right. All right. Well, I just want to say thank you to our guests. Of course, that's Brian Hensel, Deputy Public Works Director for Streets, Lori Hart, Public Works Mobility Communications Specialist, and Matt Ragsdale, also here in the studio with us, observing. He's Assistant Street Superintendent. I want to say thank you to everybody who called in today. We appreciate it. That's what City Talk is all about. We also do County Talk as often as we can to give you an opportunity to talk to the people who help make our city and our county run. So there you go. Okay, Mr. Nick, if you don't mind, what's coming up on Monday's fabulous program?
On Monday from 8 to 9, we'll have Monica Trinnell. She'll be in studio. And then from 9 to 10, we'll have David Moore with No Camping in Parks.
All right. So remember, Monday is the day before Election Day. And then Tuesday, of course, it's the general election day.
Whoa.
What?
A whole nother week.
We got another week? Really?
Yeah, you're a week ahead there, pal.
Darn.
We have to do Halloween first.
Yeah, a little early.
Oh, my apologies. Yeah, I was just getting warmed up here.
Just getting excited.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm a reporter. What do you want? Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. And by the way, I want to take this opportunity to say, go Grizz. They'll be playing Northern Colorado. I got that right? They'll be playing Northern Colorado tomorrow. They're down in Greeley, and so that's where the Grizz are going to be. You can hear the game right here on KGVO with Riley Corcoran and Greg Sundberg and of course, Ace and all the things that follow after. Get out there and make it a wonderful weekend and a great Grizzly win on Saturday. So have yourselves a great day, and be careful out there. First day of hunting season is tomorrow.